We do. We're removing from the agenda item 6.1 at the request of the mayor. There is an on-table item 6.1B, which I will include as an on-table, or sorry, an information item on the revised agenda of 12.18.
Sorry, Tyler, what was that?
Yeah, so the on-table item, you just mark down as info item 12.18, and 6.1 is pulled.
Okay.
What was the on table?
Okay.
This one?
That one, yes.
6.1B?
6.1B.
Okay, and motion to adopt the agenda, seconded.
Oh, can I add something?
No. As a matter of fact, unless it's some minor information.
It's a little minor information.
Emergency or emergent?
Updates, I would like to update council on their Ocean Watch program that we,
Oh, this is Adams Trust?
no, it's Ocean Watch House Sound Forum, Ocean Watch, that we,
For you this time, okay. But I am in a generous mood tonight. It's been quite a day.
So that be 10.3?
We'll put that in as 11.1, or
10.3?
10.3 rather,
Yep.
sure. I'm sorry. I just dropped in. Okay, motion to adopt the agenda. Seconded, all in favor? Okay, that's passed unanimously. Public comments?
We have Andre Cholat, please.
Good evening. So, Your Worship and Councillors, I'm going to talk about the Davies Orchard cottages. I don't know if it is in the item, but anyway, we heard that things were moving regarding the cottages, so I decided, and you will have to bear with me because I'm a little bit like in Henley, I'm difficult to see anymore. So it is not for the pleasure of argumentation that I'm here once again to present a plea regarding the fate of the Davies Orchard cottages. Although some people see them as derelict buildings of another era without importance, many Bowen Island residents do not have the same point of view, who in the hundreds, more than 500, signed a petition for their preservation at Applefest last year. A brief reminder of their factual importance for Bowen Island was provided in a paper last year by Professor of History at SFU Jack Little, PhD, former member of Bowen Island Heritage Commission. He described how the demand for weekend and summer affordable accommodation by the Vancouver residents before the disponibility of private cars and the extensive construction of road network in the early and mid-20th century made it an instant success. There were more than 200 of those cottages in Snell Cove and Deep Bay. When my wife Anne and I moved to Bowen Island 30 years ago, there were still close to 20 cottages fully occupied and in good standing in the Davies Orchard that was then an active section of Snell Cove. You know as well as I do what happened under the management of Metro Vancouver Regional Park Administration, the expulsion of tenants, and the result neglect we have today. Because of the mandate they have established for their regional parks, uses and development, the presence of tenants in the cottages in the Davies Orchard is not an option they are willing to consider. We have experienced this evident attitude at the Community Conversation Public Consultation hearing of June 17, 2017, when obviously the discussion of all options was acceptable as long as they were the only two options their commission presented. It reminded me of the early Ford sale of their Model T provided in all color as long as it was black. As we are faced once again with the demolition of several remaining cottages by Metro Vancouver Regional Park Administration, we ask once again that your worship and councillors set a precedent to Metro Vancouver as a landowner on Bowen Island in requiring that they respect the historical heritage context of this 2.3 acre section of their park at the demand of the large number of Bowen Island residents, as Port Moody did for the cottages of Belterra. We ask your worship and the municipal council to back up the proposal of Bohème Heritage to have the 2.3 acres of Davies Orchard separated from Crippen Park, given its historical yet informal status, with the intent of recreating a cluster of affordable cottages as it was done in the past, given today's dire demand for affordable accommodation in the code. It is only a pretense of Metro Vancouver to claim developing a livable region. We can expect more from the Davies Orchard than the green space that is not lacking in the code and the grass to be mowed weekly by the park attendant for the sake of cosmetic appearance to please the tourist. As we have volunteered over the years to restore the trees of the orchard, as you can see with the 2 apple trees in front of cottage 20, nearly 100 years old, despite the fact that they look much younger than that, we will use the means all the means at our disposal to restore the cottages of the orchard in opposing their destruction by Metro Vancouver Regional Parks. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Andre.
Brendan Hirsch, please.
Mayor and Council, I'm Brendan Hirsch, I'm a resident of Bowen Island. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I do appreciate that public comment is a forum in which I am allowed to speak to bring items to the Council's attention. I first must say that I want to acknowledge that I know that Daniel Martin, Tess Taylor, and Greg Cormier have been working very hard regarding this situation. And I'm coming to you as a member of the community to present this to you as it's an escalating situation. And I'm here to ask you to provide the support that you can to your municipal staff. What I was going to show you today is a picture of a house which appears to be almost 6,000 square foot house, and it's been built almost entirely since February 2nd. And February 2nd is interesting because that's also the date that your building department put a place to stop work order on the property at 1774 Billington Road. In other words, this is a 3-story house that's been built not only without an applicable building permit, but actually in direct opposition to the orders of the planning department. And week after week since the stop work order, there has been continuous construction on this waterfront house from literally the ground up. We've seen the first floor, then the second floor, then the third floor, and now walls that go all the way up to where the roof will be. The pictures were taken from areas of public passage, our driveway, and the waterfront. You'll remember, of course, this property as it came before you in early 2017. And at that time, the builder and owner had blasted and started construction near the sea without a building permit or DBP. And subsequently, Mayor and Council rejected their DBP application, and an appeal to the Board of Variance last June did not approve it. Aside from the house, there are other serious issues regarding violation of municipal orders regarding this property. The other 2 images I was going to show you are related to forms that were there previously. The initial work order from over a year ago stated that the illegal forms that were identified at that time were to be removed. They weren't removed. They sat there and we saw them for 11 months. And sure enough, this winter, the same owner and builder poured concrete into them. And now there's a separate building which is within about 20 feet from the water and made out of concrete. That structure was built without any building permit and without a variance. So now here today we have what appears to be a nearly 6,000 square foot home, and it's being built literally from the ground up without compliance with the building permit, and that entire time in direct defiance of the stop work order on the site. And then there's a separate concrete structure built at the edge of the water without permit or DBP, and actually placed into forms that were explicitly ordered to be removed by the municipal stop work order over a year ago. And what's transpired over the past 13 months raises significant questions about what the municipality does when, despite it making clear orders, those orders are entirely and intentionally disregarded. And in this case, they're being disregarded by someone who is a professional developer and builder. Not to mention that same person has stated that they hope to build and develop other places on Bowen Island. I urge you to take swift and strong action to support your dedicated municipal staff and to continue to represent the community interest in this concerning situation. The builder and owner seem to be building as quickly as possible, and therefore the situation is escalating day by day. In my opinion, to allow these structures to remain standing is to set a precedent for how this municipality approaches illegal building on the island. And that would be very worrisome. How the municipality handles this has large implications not only for our small community on the end of Woods Road, but also for the island as a whole. And I do very much thank you for letting me speak today.
Okay, thank you.
Can we ask questions by way of clarification?
I don't think that's appropriate.
Do you want to stay those?
Yes.
Okay.
It is staff is handling this.
Okay, thank you.
That is all.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Anything anyone want pulled from the consent agenda? No.
What do you
Almost got 8 little things on there, and you have to find one. Don't tell me it's
3.2,
minutes.
3.7,
3.2 minutes. 3.2, that the minutes be accepted. 3.7, that the minutes be accepted.
no, 3.7 is an information item from our APC meeting, and 12 candidates.
12:10. Oh,
Okay.
I sent the letter out on that. Sent the letter from her to me.
I haven't seen a letter from you.
Oh, well, I sent the letter, of course.
Well, then we'll go 12:10 and you can tell us you sent one.
Okay. Did you get those, Tyler?
I did, thank you.
Okay. Anything else pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, motion to adopt. Seconded, all in favor? Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Dowler, Defend Island Forests. Please join us.
Hi, sorry to treat you to a double feature.
And I'm his lovely assistant. Is that okay if I come up and assist?
Well, there you go. Banners up and take off your shirt and all that stuff.
No shirt, yes, banners. Yeah, well, we're, say what?
You be careful. You're okay. It's the guy beside you I'm worried about.
It's me.
Yeah, we're here on the topic of potential logging by the province or BC Timber Sales. And as you know, they came here at the beginning of last summer, late spring, and imposed a process on the community that we rebelled against, and council was material in pushing back that initiative and eventually succeeded. We, as a group called Defend Island Forests, of which Will and I are members of the steering committee, put a lot of effort, along with many other community members, into pushing back that initiative and researching the basis for their approach and what their rights and obligations are. And near the end of the summer, when we sort of took as a victory the fact that they had left, there was a lot of, slapping each other on the back and good feeling. And so at that time, there was a kind of change of the guard. We as a group, passed information over to mayor and council. And we're kind of given the feeling that in a perfect world, we would back off a bit, create less heat, so that Bowen could speak with a unified voice to the provincial government and seek protection from logging. Our status right now has not changed. They, as BCTS, still has a mandate to log here, still can come back and reinitiate the process whenever they like. And this is something that they've done in other communities, where they come in softly and then back off and then come back in full force later. And examples of this can be found in Burns Lake, I believe Caslow and Seashelt, and there are many others. We're in contact with experts who have actually spent their lives protecting forests in British Columbia, and they have expertise in this. And so, coming here to council, I guess we're, having tried to discuss with council what the strategy, what the agenda, what the successes so far have been, it's a little vague. It's a little bit like, I don't know if you've ever turned on a computer. I have a Mac, and it'll do this too. And the loading bar starts, and the thing is going around, and you're looking at it, and the thing keeps going around and around, and that bar just isn't getting any longer. And so we're wondering if it needs a reboot, if it needs some more input, if it needs some new software, if there's anything we can do to kind of help this along. And also, just a question, a concern, that maybe it's lost its sense of urgency. Maybe there's a little complacency now that we've been given indications from people that no, we would never log there. This is not the experience of other communities. So to speak on the topic of specifically how we could prevent logging on the island, I'll turn it over to Will Husby.
I've got a handout, but I'm not sure if I can hand it out. I'll have to ask the mayor and Kathy.
Yes, delegations, we're a lot nicer to delegations.
You're on the agenda.
Yeah, sure, yes.
Where am I doing?
Previously, we'd passed the council a document called Request for Action of Flenroe Minister to Prevent Logging on Bowen Crown Lands. And it was a multi-page document. And I know you folks, John is waving one.
These have been distributed to council, so
Yeah.
yes, we can give hard copies to them.
And what I've done is made a little summary of this that I'll just pass around. And the core to it is on the first page, which is basically the mechanisms available to the Minister of Forest, Lands and Natural Resources Operations to remove Bowen Island from the forest stewardship plan, which basically, according to the experts we've talked to, is the options that would make it so that it's very unlikely that they'll come back, that BC Timber Sales will not have that. Now, that's the first page, and I could waste a lot of your time reading it to you, which I won't, because you folks have a busy night ahead, and I'm not going to do that. But those are the core options that we had suggested that council could ask the Minister of Forests to enact, to do. And the other side is really just some of the better purposes that we found that are in legislation and reports for the lands of Bowen Island, the forest lands of Bowen Island. So that's the summary sheet that, and probably, Maureen, you'll be able to find that seeing as it hasn't been edited, that there will be some things there. I respect editors because I'm one of those people that really need one.
Okay.
So, should I?
Yes, that passes on.
What's our timeline? What's that? Oh, that was 10 minutes?
Oh, you forgot to start, didn't you?
You were up to over 6 minutes, and I was thinking 5.
I thought you might be falling asleep.
Go ahead.
Well, there's I attached to our letter going to this document a petition that we created, which they would like to demonstrate for you here. Yes, it's another petition too.
Same one.
And it's more
Now I'll have to know that this is a smaller font, but it also includes where people are from. But that's about 1,800 people who are waiting to find out what's going to happen with us. So what we're requesting is, just a report from council. What is the strategy? Who are the experts that you're consulting in order to devise this strategy? And would it be possible to convene a council as a whole with a fellow named Rick Careless or his associate Suzanne Sanger, who are experts in this area, who've actually had a hand in preserving, I don't know if it's tens of thousands or millions of hectares of land in the province. People who know what it takes, who totally understand it takes a long time. We understand it takes a long time. But we just need to see those steps being taken. This is quite a show. Sorry, it's unrehearsed. But anyway, so those are our requests. A strategy, a report, and a council of the whole with some experts so we can vet the strategy or amend it.
Who are the experts again, John?
Well, Rick Careless,
Okay.
his name is R-I-C, and the last name is C-A-R-E-L-S-S. And his associate is Suzanne
Sanger.
Sanger, yeah.
And they're with BC Spaces for Nature.
Right.
I was just curious, we're always told to read the OCP and it sets our direction, so I don't notice any references to the OCP in your submissions, and there's a lot of policies in the OCP that are encouraging logging and talking about working with the ministry to make sure that woodlot tenures follow best practices, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess I'm wondering if the ministry is sort of scratching their head and saying, well, their OCP says one thing and now they're saying something else, so.
Yeah, well, just Alison, to respond to that somewhat, I'd say you could say the same thing about the Islands Trust. Mind you, if you look at the summary, the second sheet, they recently did a survey of Bowen Island, people in the Islands Trust about their opinions about industrial logging, and you'll see the numbers are very strongly.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is, I think we may have to get our own house in order with amending the OCP before we can start going to the province and saying, we'd like you to take it out, because the language in there is all.
Yeah, if I am allowed to respond. Yeah, I think that just underscores the urgency, and we feel a deep sense of urgency, and I think that's what we'd like to agree on, is that there is urgency. We have a green MEP government right now, which is a rare occurrence and may not last. We have a lot of public interest in this, which is relatively fresh. We have people who can give us guidance for how this can be accomplished. What we need is a plan and actions that we can see being taken as a community, so that the people who are talking to us saying what's happening, so we can tell them something. And yeah.
Okay. I'd like to respond.
Sure.
So I have had meetings, have met with, rather, the representative for Glenroe. As per the letter that you received, Alan Johnsrud is the one who has been asked by the minister to speak with us on the matter. And I feel reassured by him when he says BC Timber Sales is not currently in the picture, and nobody can say that they won't come back, and nobody can say when they will come back. However, they have no immediate or intermediate plans to include Bowen in a forest stewardship plan. So BC Timber Sales, if you feel there's a bit of a sense of complacency, I think you're right. We've got a lot of other things that we're dealing with, and this isn't something that we see as being a 3-month or a 6-month situation. One thing they explained to us is that there are many different tenures for Crown land. And so while you can get use of the Crown land for one thing, we don't preclude the Crown land being used for anything else. And everything else has to take into consideration the other tenures, etc. It's an extremely complex thing to think that you're going to deal with 4,000 acres of land. They spoke about us looking at the specific block by block and making recommendations if we wish to, and obviously a very serious process. They did not find that it to be a priority within the ministry at this time, and, sort of looking to the future, maybe at some point it would be. Now, I have talked to Jordan Sturdy, our MLA. He is meeting with a legislative committee and making the point to them that they're not going to log Bowen Island, and that means that the annual allowable cut that is being taken, not being cut on Bowen every year, it has to be cut somewhere else in his riding, and he wants Bowen Island taken out of the annual allowable cut to relieve the pressure in other areas. I forwarded to him the letter that I have from the Minister of Environment and highlighted the text where the minister says that they are in full support of what we are doing, and that their ministry will support us in dealings with Flynn Rowe at our request. So that is another avenue. Mr. Johnsrud did suggest that the Howe Sound Community Forum and Biosphere Initiative might invite some form of discussion on this topic if we wanted to take it up. Other options are some form of land use planning exercise, but again, not sure how likely that process in this location is to be a near-term government priority. So this is Flynn Rowe speak, right? But again, they confirm that we are a complex area with a low anticipated return for use in logging, right? And that the urban development on Bowen Island makes it a complex area. So I can't get people excited at this table to start forming committees and work on long-term planning for Bowen Island, the exception probably of Sue Ellen, to work on this. So, but it's not, okay, so the point is, one, it's not that nothing is happening. Things are happening. We are garnering support from upper levels of government. We have talked with the representative of the Ministry of Forests, and as per the letter that you got, he appreciates our situation. Right. One thing, it came up briefly, the possibility of us becoming a community forest. Community forest people aren't interested in us if we're looking at less than 50% of the allowable cut. And when I spoke to them about artisanal cutting on Bowen and fireproofing and the sorts of things that might end up with a 10% allowable cut, it's not enough for them. They're not interested in that kind of, for us to say, yeah, we're accepting logging, you just can't have 90% of it. They don't consider that a worthwhile proposition on our part. So that's where we're at today.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you actually, answering this forum, because you probably didn't have to.
It's my report to council as an update, and this is stuff that just happened in the last
If I can just add something then. During the summer, when they came in, there was a real strong atmosphere about how they treated the island. And nothing has changed in the sense that they haven't actually made any kind of change to our status. And so if they came back again, Alan's words notwithstanding, they might come back with even more force. And that's the experience of other communities. That's what we're trying to express. And so we would like to be part of an ongoing strategy. And if it's not important enough to the government, we would probably make it our business to make it more important.
Exactly.
To the government.
That's our.
So we can work together.
We don't know if we want to poke the bear. As it is now, they have backed up, and we're not dealing with BC Timber Sales. They will return our phone calls only out of courtesy. They will state over and over again, we have no immediate or interim or immediate or, the one after immediate plans for Bowen Island. And
that's the statement that personally I don't believe. And I guess that's my problem.
That's BC Timber Sales, but we're not dealing with them. We're dealing with Monroe. And we're working with our MLA. We have the support of the Ministry of Environment, and things are slowly moving along.
Yeah. So you don't think the idea of that those 5 ideas of getting the minister or cabinet to, or requesting the minister or cabinet to basically take us out of the equation?
Well,
In
he's referred it to his bureaucrat, which is what they typically do.
Yeah.
Unless we have a strong political reason, if we could get a meeting with the minister and there was something pending, like BC timber sales, you could get people excited. But for now, they're saying, not sure how likely that process in this location is to be a near-term priority for the provincial government.
But
I
the
mean, how would you-
fellow who was telling you this, his career is built on logging. His whole reason for being
Right.
is to log. So I accept what you're saying. I'm sorry because it comes across as really critical. I'm very supportive of this council.
But the bottom line, and I apologize to council for dragging this out, and we'll have to move on, but the bottom line is I find them ingenuous people to deal with. They're not, they can't change government policy on their own, but they do understand their position, and as I say, he's kicking it down the road to the community foreign biosphere thing. There's a big debate whether or not we even want a master plan for Bowen Island in the larger context, because that might work against us. You can talk about this for weeks, and you guys will. And I believe that we have looked at having you for a committee of the whole, where you will be able to come back to us and present your ideas in a more fulsome way, because I have not had to spend that much time on it this evening.
Great. Well, thank you, Randy.
Did you want to speak to it?
Just, we're setting up a new committee, the Environment and Climate Action Committee, and that might be a committee that could advise council about proposals coming from the community. And also, I have a bunch of information from the Islands Trust now about actions that they took as well. They took it very seriously as well. I have a whole page, which I can present at some point. And I would like to have the committee of the whole, I'd like to have it on council. I think this could be, the scale of logging that is proposed, or was proposed less than a year ago. I was in one of those earlier meetings that Bonnie asked me if I would like to attend, and they came in hard, they told us that they were coming, and I went to Rick Careless's talk. I heard that they do this all over the place, and they do come back, and I think it could be one of the most serious things that happens, or could happen to Bowen Island, and I think we need to be taking every action we can.
Yeah.
From the mayor's lips to my ears.
I believe we are. I believe we are. But I also believe that I do not want to make us a cause célèbre at Flynn Road, to put it perfectly
You don't want
bluntly.
to start?
Make us a cause célèbre. I mean, or BC Timber Sales or whatever. They've got enough stuff on their plate. BC Timber Sales was not able to put together a 5-year stewardship plan. They were only able to get a 1-year plan done. And now they're working very hard to get the next 4 years of it done. That it will take them another year, like without us. We're very much not part of their stewardship planning process for the 5 years starting in January of this year.
Can you send documents around? Because I haven't seen any of that.
I think that would be useful. If we could have a committee of whole, we could have like a little synopsis
Sure.
of the steps that we just.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, a lot of this is very, very current.
Super.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. It's great to be able to come to council and have this discussion.
Can I have one of those bound copies?
Oh, yes, please. Would anybody else like a copy?
What's in the?
That's the Bend Island Forest presentation to the minister.
Yeah, actually.
It's a briefing document that explains interim steps that
Thank
can
you.
be taken to prevent logging without actually creating a park or
Yeah.
a large process. It's simple things like getting out of the EA's annual allowable cut.
Has Tyler got one?
I can do that one.
Yeah.
Then he's got a file for it?
Yes, and also it's a
We had it
PDF
as a digital.
attached.
Yes.
Yeah, but
I know, but you had, this is, honestly, it's very hard to take, this is Which is great.
Yeah, I don't know how you could absorb so many
Thank
PDFs
you.
or pages of text.
Yeah. And you want to go back
And if
forth.
you use the PDF, it's got all kinds of hot links that'll take you to the websites where the data, where the information came from, so.
I'd like to thank our kind assistants with the,
Do you want to see them do it again?
No, it's
I've run out of petitions.
Thank you for your concern.
Well rehearsed.
If you coordinate with Tiger, then that's great. If you can coordinate with Tiger, it's a
Yes.
Raj?
Raj, was there a PowerPoint presentation?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
Just
there's
got
a
worried.
So we're talking about the financial plan amendment. And so from time to time, municipalities adjust the financial plan to basically reflect unexpected changes that have taken place since the financial plan was prepared at the beginning of the year. And so the proposed financial plan amendment in front of you actually incorporates, well, during 2017, we had essentially our winter maintenance costs were quite high due to a very, very cold, snowy, icy winter. And we also had some costs associated with the artificial turf. There were some safety issues there, and council had approved the repairs of that. So the on the operating side, and our permit revenues from the development area were also stronger than anticipated. So on the operating side, I'm bringing in some additional permit revenues and also drawing down the reserve for winter maintenance completely. It had a $40,000 balance in it to cover off the additional costs that were spent on winter maintenance in 2017.
Awesome.
And then on the operating side, on the capital side, the Miller Road sewer expansion was about $400,000 over budget, and council had approved in the summer a couple of funding sources to take care of that overage. In the resolution of council, the funds were it had said that the funds would come from general surplus, but given that this was a utilities project, there was a reserve in utilities that has an amount adequate to cover the funds required, and it's a sewer reserve for special projects, so that's where I've taken the funds from rather than taking them from the general fund, because I don't want to mix those funds up.
Yeah.
And so this amendment to the financial plan should bring us into essentially the 5-year financial plan is our authorization to spend. And so in those particular areas, spending is higher than what was authorized by council. So this proposed financial plan amendment should bring us in alignment with actual expenditures for 2017. And we're doing it quite late in the year, but typically you would do an amendment to the financial plan in the fall. So in 2018, you will see an amendment probably in September or October to capture the changes that took place during the year. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Yeah, October.
October.
Late October.
Yeah, real late.
Yeah,
Just in case people want to, look at it.
sorry if I may, I think we're going to have to support Raj here in as much that what he's done, and obviously done it working very well with yourself and your team, is pull this together. In my opinion, having worked with many controllers and financial directors who find themselves in the same position, we may well have to retain a certain amount of agility during this year, because if you've been able to capture everything, and every accrual and everything else, I would describe it as miraculous. And I think it's probably not unfair to say this is your very best effort at the projections so far. I don't think I would add it from the finance committee, just a note to everybody that, look, this is the best we can do right now. But you say September. Do you think it's possible that...
This is 2017.
This is 2017.
I know, but as a year moves by, how for the rest of this year, I mean, give us your best shot. I mean, what's it looking like for the rest of this year? How many times do you think you will need to come back with some fine adjustments during the course of this year as a result of the figures you're having to put together for 17?
I don't anticipate having to come back until the fall.
Full.
Yeah.
The beauty of adopting a budget so late in the year, is there could be less budget amendments.
Less, yeah. We
There's more
probably will
scrutiny.
just start getting going with the plan.
You're working on
April.
actuals, yeah, okay, all right.
So,
You have to look at the positive.
Yeah, I know, okay.
so the 2017 are the actuals now?
More or less.
More or less,
More or less,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
We've got to get our accruals and stuff in for 2017, but we're working on that right now.
Yeah, that's it. Well, great.
Do you happen to know how our reserves look at the end of 2017 compared to the beginning?
That is my next steps. Once I get the funding entries, I should have a good picture of that by the end of this week. I mean, I know what they were like at the beginning of the year,
Right.
and I don't think there was a substantial change other than these drawdowns that I'm proposing here
Mhm.
from 2016 year-end levels, because you did have about 1.2 million that you put into the reserves
Right.
as part of the capital funding
Right.
in last year's plan, which I have to record going into the reserves as well, and then you took that out to fund your capital projects during the year.
Okay.
All right, great.
Good.
I'm so glad you came aboard now and not 3 months later.
Maureen?
I was curious why the sale of services is projected at, or is really 300K, and then you're projecting it almost 100,000 less in the subsequent years?
That's last year's plan.
That's last year's
Yes,
financial
yes.
plan, so if you were looking at that, it could have been, I'm not sure what was
Well,
in
you
the
didn't
subsequent
change any
years.
of the
No, I didn't change any of the other
2018 on
years.
numbers, you only
No.
changed 2017.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know what assumptions Kristen would have used to come up with that
And there's no point in
175.
changing
the other
2018 to
years.
20 because we're busy doing a new 2018 right now.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so the new financial plan comes out at the beginning of the year or something like
the new financial plan
that?
will.
The 5-year plan. that
Oh, the new
starts-
5-year financial plan is slated to come to council on March the 22nd.
Oh, okay.
26,
Oh, March 26th, sorry. Yeah, March 22nd was the,
finance.
And that's like right around the corner. God, you better get going.
You better let her go.
you don't know what my weekends have been like.
And it was sunny this weekend too. So I will move that the 5-year, I don't know if we want the word proposed in there, that the 5-year financial plan bylaw number 434-2017, amendment bylaw 454-2018 be read a first, second, and third time. And I changed proposed to the, Tyler.
I got it, thank you.
Makes sense to you, yeah? Yeah, it's not proposed anymore, now it's real? Okay. Okay, anyone want to speak in anything before I call the question? All in favor? Passed unanimously, isn't it, Michael?
Yes, I, absolutely.
Thanks, Raj.
Happy holidays.
Super, thanks, Rod.
Okay, 6.1 has been pulled, we're on to 6.2. Councillor Nicholson, draft terms of reference, they're always fun.
Didn't we have a 6.1B?
No, that was an on-table information.
All parts of
Wait,
6.1.
to information.
Info, thank you.
1218.
Okay, thank you.
So for item 6.2, you have before you terms of reference for the proposed Housing Advisory Committee. These were developed by me, Kathy, Daniel, and Allison. And this is your opportunity to provide feedback. If there are minor changes, we can make them and adopt. If there are more substantive changes, we can defer it and take the changes and bring it back at the next council meeting. So I invite your feedback.
Thank you for doing this. My suggestions or questions relate to 2.3. And I wondered if you might consider inserting the word any, such that it reads, the committee will not be involved in allocating to eligible applicants any home ownership or rental units? Because, and then it says affordable housing policy, but the whole group is called the Housing Advisory Committee, and it refers to all kinds of housing. Because I thought you might also want to add there, or any wait lists. Because I know there have been waiting lists, and I understand they're at the credit union, but people might, people reading this, just to make it really clear, and also to people who might be thinking of joining it and not be sure whether they should or not. So that's just adding the word any and adding the word or any wait lists to 2.3.
I'm fine with that, and it sounds as though the intent of that clause is clear to people, that we just wanted to make sure that people understood that they weren't going to be doing
Benefiting.
that. Potentially benefiting or being involved in adjudicating
Right.
their
People shouldn't go
neighbors
to them.
and
Right.
whether
So-
they're going
Got
to
it.
be placed.
So why don't we say, the committee will not be involved in identifying or allocating or identifying allocating to or identifying eligible applicants.
To any home ownership or.
Because you mentioned wait lists.
Okay, so identifying applicants
Yeah, allocating.
or allocating to
Yeah.
eligible applicants home ownership or rental units developed under the affordable housing policy.
Or any, I mean, this could be co-housing or anything, right? I just thought you could make it
So just
any,
take
take out affordable and
out
say,
the affordable housing policy as well?
does 2.3, I guess my clarification is, does 2.3 only refer to the affordable housing policy? Or what if we develop a community land trust or some other kind of housing?
Right.
So I thought you could open it up by removing affordable housing policy there, as long as it's somewhere else.
Right.
Or if you go example given, affordable housing policy.
Yeah.
So
I'm
That-
sorry, say that again?
just say example given, affordable housing policy.
Or for example.
Well, at this point, we don't have any policy other than the affordable housing policy that creates.
But we may in the future.
But we may, that's partly what this group is supposed to do,
Right.
is to
We
provide.
could say given municipal housing policy, and that would cover affordable, co-housing, co-op, whatever.
Yeah, just,
I just want to make this
Yeah.
so that it doesn't have to be updated as soon as another
Yeah.
policy is
Yeah.
created.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I got it.
all right. And the other one, I had a look at the, and maybe, I might be out of date with this one because I looked online at the APC, because they also make recommendations about land use. And the document that is there is from 2003, so I'm wondering if that's the old one. But anyway, it has a couple of things at the bottom that say,
These are the terms of reference for?
these are the terms of reference for the APC. Yep, sorry. And right at the bottom, it has a section called expected conduct of commission members. And it just says, shall refer inquiries regarding housing proposals to the municipal plan, like rather than taking them on themselves. And it also just says that they should be cautious when speaking at public hearings or public meetings. So I just wanted to flag that as something that might be helpful, seeing as you're setting up the committee for the first time ever.
So I think, so I would say that would be covered under 2.1. The committee is a select committee of council that acts in advisory capacity to council with final decisions of all matters brought forward.
This is more like
Yeah, the
how to
APC is
respond
a
to
little,
people.
yeah, it's a little bit different because it is the only commission that we have that's identified under the Local Government Act. I think we do talk about maybe not.
You've got the conflict of interest section in here.
Yeah.
haven't you?
Yeah, it's there.
Conflict of interest is there. This is more how to respond to the public.
It's actually, I
You
think
know.
it's the first one, I
Yeah.
think is actually an interesting point. Commission members, committee members should refer inquiries regarding housing development proposals to the municipal planner. It means that they're not going to get into discussion with potential proponents without it having gone through staff and having been brought, you know,
So
to
it
council.
augments 2.3 almost.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I was just thinking, I wouldn't want these people to be in the middle and not understand what the role is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives context to 203.
Do we have to approve this tonight?
Reinforces the point.
Because
No, we don't.
I'm wondering if we should take that comment and
Yeah.
go back and think about it.
Because no, that is a good point, but, yeah.
And I may not have the, like I say, this might not be the
Yeah.
most up-to-date APC, maybe there's something.
But still,
I
it's a
think
good point.
they were revised and then that revision was repealed, so we're back to.
Oh, okay.
Can I just ask one quick question? On the subject of, by the way, I think this is fundamentally pretty damn good. If we were to look at all the committees we have in the terms of reference, we were to print them out and we put them all side by side. Are we following a common template in as much as our purpose, their mandate, membership, etc.? That's my question, because I think it's an excellent, whatever we should do. And this is absolutely great. Or when we have all these terms of reference, and we've said we've got them all, printed them out, heaven forbid, put them side by side on a desk, that there is a continuity of approach which makes it so much easier to review and change. And I'm asking the question: is that the way it stands
Yeah,
now, or?
With our environment committee terms of reference, I did read a lot of research of other communities. And I saw that as our new template moving forward, and this one is based on that.
Great.
So I think you'd see continuity from those two committees moving forward, because it was bothering me that our terms of reference, I love your question, Michael, because.
This is what she likes.
Yeah. It was
Well,
fun.
I do, because this is very complex. So
Yeah.
you're asking for this to be done again.
Yeah.
How much better if we've got a template, and it's also a tremendous aide-memoire to make sure that the questions dealt with here, although they'll be different, it's a different committee, are also tackled. And we've got a reciprocity between all the various committees. Okay, I mean, that's the answer then, but that's what we're working towards.
Absolutely.
I don't think we need a
Great
motion.
question.
We don't need a motion on that, do we?
No.
No.
I'm going to go to Melanie and then Terry. Okay.
My first one's just a real quick clarification, and that was for 2.2A. And it says, in trends to help inform strategic provide advice and recommendations to council on a wide range of existing emerging housing issues and trends to help inform strategic planning initiatives. I just wanted to double check. That would include something, say, like the comprehensive planning of the community lands? Yeah, check, great. And then this is just it's not that complex, but for 2.2B, it says sustain a long-term focus, and I was wondering about maybe introducing maybe the short-term and medium-term in there to give it some idea that it's for now as well as
Well,
into
it's
the
to
future.
sustain it though.
The point of this really, it is the sustaining over
It
the
is a
long
certain-
term.
But when you read that, you kind of think perhaps it's just a long-term focus, but also to acknowledge that it's also to start to address housing issues now. So maybe something like the committee will provide short, medium, and long-term focus on housing, just to get an element that it would also be starting to look at the issue.
Maybe we can turn the wording around a bit so that it's positive, that it starts now, but it's also it's not something that's going to be done in a year. It's going to be something that's going to be top of mind as long as it's a problem.
Anything that just captures that flavor, that it's also to start looking at it now, but also again to, I mean, I'm totally in support of the long-term focus, but just to give it a flavor.
Yeah. So there's a little intro piece that short term, medium term, but then it goes on to and sustain that long-term focus.
Yes. Otherwise, it maybe just reads that it's just a long-term.
And they'll get to it in 10 years, yeah. Okay.
And that's it.
Great.
I just read this and I read the mandate and I'd like to know where this advisory committee is going, because I see this as an absolutely colossal mandate for a group of people. And I'll tell you, if I was an Islander, I wouldn't get on this committee because it's going to be so much work. I'm just telling you.
Oh, you will be. Give you 6 months.
Well,
You'll be
hey, I get paid. I get paid.
You'll be chairing
This
it.
is volunteer
For the
member.
time
There's
being.
something about unpaid work in this.
I'm very serious. I think you're gonna have a hard time getting really capable people to come onto this, because of the amount, the workload involved. So that's my only comment.
Do you have any suggestions as to how to deal with that?
No, unless it's a very limited advisory committee that is showing us the way forward on a short-term basis.
But it's not a short-term thing.
Well, I know, and that's the only way I see it. It's the only way I can see the participation coming.
Well, I think the council liaison roles would be really important with this committee at the beginning to help establish a scope of work that is going to be manageable for them, because the tendency is going to be, biting off far more than they can chew at the beginning because of a sense of urgency.
It's so huge. This is so huge. And it's gonna get bigger and bigger, and it's gonna grow existentially. And I really fear it. You know what? All the committees we work with, they're all at just a max, and they're all at about burnout level. And I'm just saying, that's, how to get around that, I don't know. And you will find some dedicated people that'll come along, maybe retired or something like that. But this, it's just an amazing amount.
Okay, you don't have to volunteer for it.
No,
Melanie?
Just to speak to your point, I did notice, like, it does say be provided advice and recommendations to council. I mean, one of those recommendations could be, hire an external consultant
well, that's,
for
yeah.
X, but to be able to provide us with that scope of work. And I would really like to see maybe sort of a housing plan come out of this, high level document of where we should be concentrating. Is it the co-housing?
But you pay professionals tens of thousands of dollars to get these things.
But
And this is, I go back to the APC. The APC's a great bunch of people, but they're not gonna,
But
they're not working
they can
for
help
them.
us figure out where we need to spend money, in a very narrow focus, so we can get the most, instead of having one massive document, can have a consultant.
Yeah, well, then it's a whole different,
We need help on this.
just my comment.
I see it more just, I used this word in our joint meeting last week, but it's more of a framework that this committee would provide. And then we would hire what professionals we need to kind of fulfill.
Yeah,
flesh it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's your sort of thinking on this?
yeah, and I think that's
Well,
definitely the way to get
There's a
it.
work plan to be approved by council, so I think that's 5.4, so that's very key that
It's a work plan.
a doable work plan.
Yes,
Because if they extend or aren't realistic in what can be done, then.
if you can get anybody to join the committee. it's not-
Maybe that's why we didn't have any applicants for the housing court.
Well, yeah, same thing,
Well, the community's been interested in seeing something like this
Yeah.
committee for a long time. It's a significant gap. You look at the list of committees and you think, given the discussion in the community, where is the housing committee? So, I think we'd be negligent not to put it out there and.
No, I agree, but I think you need people with expertise on there, that's my only.
Well, I think that's part of the
Isn't that
criteria.
That's in the.
Well, yeah,
membership.
The hundreds of applicants, we can pick and choose, I guess.
Okay, so I will take the feedback from Sue Ellen and Melanie and rework this gently and bring it back to next council meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, because I figured this would be a first crack at it, and next week or 2 weeks from now we can finalize it.
Well, I really like the format, I think I know it's just a format, and I admire what you put in, and I really wish you well with it, that we've got something that we can work with.
Yeah.
It may be just a frame, but boy, it's the Empire State Building.
Okay.
What would happen if you went from 3 years to 1 year? I don't know. Without
In
the
terms of
term, the term might scare people off. Anyway, I said
Is
my
it for
piece.
life?
Maybe we try the phase term like we did with the EDC.
We could do that at the time of appointment,
Yeah,
I think.
in for the first,
Yeah.
there was some wording in the EDC,
Yeah.
and
And
that might get people to.
if people apply, we could
3
ask
years.
them what their
Yeah.
preference was, because we did that with EDC as
Yeah.
well.
We need a motion to defer.
Motion to defer.
I'll second that.
All right, I've got one written.
Well, I think the first is slightly different language.
Okay.
Under Robert's Rules of Order, so just that I don't think we need a resolution.
Okay.
It'll just be brought back.
Okay, yeah.
Discussion ensued, and Councillor Nicholson will report to that, the next committee meeting, council meeting with revised terms.
Very good.
Okay,
So, you're up again, I believe.
so there's a short document in your agenda package that relates to the housing speaker program. And I was asked when I got rolling on this to bring it back to council. So it responds to the resolution that was passed back in January 2018. So the program is now underway, and it's sort of evolved so that it's got 3 parts: committees of the whole, speaker events, and something that calling local solutions. And there are some examples here of the different types of events. So the cow that we had on the 1st of March, and then Josie Osborne, I'm finalizing dates with her at the moment. She's prepared to talk, as we discussed in council. She'll talk about the Tofino Housing Authority and management of short-term rental accommodations, if that's what we wanted to talk about. And then we had Jada today, and we have organized for Thursday, April 5th, a workshop on detached secondary suites. There was quite a lot of interest expressed in doing that from folks who responded on Facebook, and we've got the word out now. So Daniel and our building inspector and a detached secondary suite owner are going to host that. And the idea is, in part, to hopefully reduce the workload for planning, because rather than dealing with 15 people who are interested in detached secondary suites, those folks could get basic information all at once. They could hear what other people are asking, figure out the questions that they didn't know to ask, and some of them will decide to proceed and some of them will run for the hills, and that could be a good thing. And then there are a couple of other things that are confirmed for the future. Folks from BC Housing, Nonprofit Housing Association, haven't pinned down anybody yet from Community Land Trust, and Selena Robinson is still not confirmed. So they might be standalone, or they might participate in the engagement event that we're planning for June 9th and 10th at Cates Hill Chapel. So we have that date confirmed.
Isn't it the charrette?
That's the charrette.
You're
Yeah.
going to call the housing people in to speak there?
Potentially getting BC Housing at the charrette.
Oh, BC, okay, BC Housing would be good.
Yeah. And the Nonprofit Housing Association can speak to things like co-ops and co-housing. Pause.
No, I mean, you're going to, it's a fun-filled, packed weekend as it is, that we're going to be going around looking at the land, forming the groups, getting the direction from the facilitator and the planner and everybody discussing what land would be good for what, and then to have somebody come from something like the Community Lands, or whatever, or sorry, the Nonprofit Housing Association,
Well,
it's going to skew it.
It says that they can be standalone events if that's what we want, or they can be in some way incorporated into that weekend event. And I wasn't sure about the best way to handle that, in part because the subcommittee that is doing the initial structuring of that weekend doesn't meet until Wednesday of this week. So once we go through that process and have sort of blocked out the times and the activities in more detail, then I think whether they fit in that weekend or as standalone speakers will be
They
clear.
might be a resource person type for that charrette too, where you've got,
Yeah.
where you're getting these issues about, well, no, you've got to think about this rather than that.
Yeah.
Right, but what you see is all there is. Once you start giving people a lens to look through to do something, you restrict their vision from looking at other things, right? And so I'd be very careful about bringing in somebody who's specifically affordable housing or that sort of thing when you're doing an overall comprehensive planning exercise.
I agree.
When somebody maybe wanted to talk about how do you get to this housing past the community hall that doesn't want a road in front of it? Stuff like that. There's a lot of
Well, I can-
stuff,
I can take
elephants
that-
in that room already.
I can take that feedback to the subcommittee. And, I mean, that's several months away in terms
Yeah.
of tuning up. And then there's some future topics that we could bring in, and this came up in discussion at the March 1st COW, and it's fairly open in that the public or council could suggest additional or alternative topics of interest. And with the speaker sessions and the local solutions, those are pretty low impact in terms of logistics, but there are financial implications that are associated with the weekend event, for the venue, for feeding people, for potential materials. So when the draft 2018 budget was being put together, Kathy asked me what would be like a generous amount to cover, and 6,000 is apparently included in the draft budget. And I don't imagine we'll get there, but that's what's being allocated.
Are you supposed to say the minimum amount?
So you're putting this budget with the charrette?
With the bulk of it going to Sherritt. So feedback, welcome.
So we've got dates set for this meeting?
June 9th and 10th.
Is that okay?
It's a Saturday and Sunday.
Not yet, but we'll get something up from staff, just a couple of those dates.
The word charrette is a new one we're going to be introducing into our vocabulary. I think it's a great one.
It's been around for a while.
It has, isn't it?
It's a Bowen word.
Okay.
It means umbrella.
I mean, it means a public meeting or workshop devoted to a concerted effort to solve a problem or plan the design of something.
Pretty much covers it.
Yes, it does. Okay, learn something every minute.
Okay.
So the idea was to bring this back to you guys to let you know
Yeah.
what was going on, and if there was worries or suggestions that,
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Good on
for
you.
doing all that, but I think Naomi's got something.
Now that you've got the June 9th and 10th date, does it seem like that could be like a final collection date for all these
Oh, okay.
speakers?
no.
No, you see going past that
Yeah.
and just adding to it.
Yeah.
And I was, once the working group gets going, do you think that will we get sort of updates back to council on how that shred's coming together and what the format?
Yes.
That'd be interesting to hear how that comes together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that need to be shared, get feedback on whether it seems to be working or not, meets expectations.
Who's on the subcommittee? Can you remind me?
And there are two APC.
Oh, yeah.
So Dennis Wilson and possibly David Hawking, we'll invite him once he's back, and Daniel and me and John Reed. So there are 5 of us.
When did that working group sort of start to look at how you'll get like a good cross-section of the community as stakeholders and?
Yeah, and that's one area where I'd like council input, because if we've got 50, 60 people, and we probably wouldn't go that much over that, there will be some people that all of you will think that person absolutely has to be there. And, giving that feedback on the invitation list. And then if we get through the invitation list and there's still space, we could open it up and ask those who are interested from the public and see where that goes.
That's how they did it with the Community Foundation Vital Conversation.
That's how they did it with the Grafton Lakelands consultation. It seems to work. You get the people in who have a strong commitment and a loud and or credible voice, and you bring them into the room. Yeah.
Can I just, on this June date, are we expected to be there? Well, no, because you picked the date. I had to have an investiture at the cathedral that day.
An investiture at the
Yeah.
cathedral?
You getting invested?
So I do, and the Order of St. John. And, yeah, I know. I just looked at it, I thought, oh no, how many people, I get so far out there, you think that they would be clear. That's why
I haven't gotten
it was
the
wonderfully.
invitation yet.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the mayor.
We'll send a car out for you.
It's two days, you could come for the second day. If you can.
He's gonna be exhausted after his investiture.
It's gonna be tired.
I want to be-
What a super conflict, I wish I had a conflict like that. Pretty cool, yeah.
But we have
Yeah.
looked the space at this point.
But then cut my ears off with a saw.
They were looking pretty quickly.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so I have a recommendation. It's a simple one that council received for information. Housing Speaker Program Update dated March 7th, 2018. I move it. Someone seconds it.
Done deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Councillor Nicholson, anything happening at Metro?
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report?
Moving right along.
Yes.
No meetings.
Island Trust.
Well, I had information item A put on the agenda so everybody could see the agenda.
Oh,
There's the 3-day plan and 5 pages of agenda. Big item is the budget, which I've already told you about. And there's 2 items on here that, 5 point,
How much are we going up there?
we're going up to 295, from 242.
That'll be very popular.
And the amendment to the application fees bylaw for First Nations engagement, I'm looking at that because if I'm reading it right, people who are doing a rezoning application that's gonna get referred to First Nations, they're being charged a $450 fee.
Yeah. Standard.
Not by the First Nations, by the Allen's Trust. If I'm reading it right, and then that will be to pay for the cost of the First Nations coming and inspecting the site. Anyhow, I will clarify.
I think that's going to the First Nation.
It
Well,
eventually
it's-
gets to
yeah,
the First
it-
Nations, yeah.
No, it's the Allen's Trust fee bylaw, so it's gonna be paid to the First Nations from the Allen's Trust, if I'm reading it right.
Yeah, but
I
it'll be
will-
flow through, I think.
Yeah, but I'll find out more about it, because we have nothing like this in any of our bylaws, as I recall. So anyhow, I'll find out a little bit more about that. And then the history and heritage conservation one we'll record on that, it's a nice one, it's just a $5,000 grant that, Museum and Archives or DEPA could apply for.
I'm sorry, what is this, the History, Heritage and Conservation Grants?
They're doing it's a $5,000 grant to date, it's not a big number, but we could, it's something that one of our organizations could apply for. And then there was, I think the rest of it is fairly straightforward. Nothing that and we'll see there's a whole session on community energy and climate action.
So, can I just ask them, the annual stipend or bill, whatever we call it,
Requisition.
that's a better word. 295,000, that's the final number, is it?
Well, it's been a moving target in past years. It may change, because if the budget gets changed, it'll change.
Can I ask when the budget's likely to be put to bed?
On Thursday, Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, March the 14th.
And generally speaking, considering that everyone in the community is going to have to pay this, how does Islands Trust inform the residents of Bowen that this is going to be their requisition?
They don't.
But while you're away,
It's on your taxes.
They
while you're
they
away,
requisition it from the
the
municipality. It's like the regional district.
Yeah, no, I
if you want to see it, I brought it.
but as I said, when I was looking when the number, I just wondered whether at any time the Islands Trust, since it's going to be on, whether it informs anyone in advance or whether it
Well, they
does.
did. There was a whole budget consultation that happened while you were away.
Okay.
In which they took it out of NABNY and current, and we posted it on the website, and the budget was there for everybody to go and, the bugs are flying in because we've got the windows open, to go and look. So there was budget consultation and a survey. Maybe 3 or 4 islanders filled out the survey, we advertised it properly. So, and then Sue Ellen's done some more digging with Claire as to what services we've been getting from Trust Area Services, the Trust Fund Board, which are, so that's.
And that'll be available as well.
We can put as an information item, I guess, on a future agenda.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Sure.
Just a question. I'd be curious what the scuttlebutt is at the table around the potential speculation tax and its impact on island economies. So
Yeah.
if you guys could sort of have that
It
chat.
was too late to put it on
Yeah.
as an agenda item, and I couldn't figure out it wasn't an emerging
We'll
item,
report
so.
back.
But we will certainly, it's certainly going to be a topic of dinner table conversation
Yes.
and lunchtime conversation.
Yeah, that
So
would be
they said,
helpful.
I was listening to CBC this morning, and they actually said that people don't have to worry about that. BC people that have cottages and stuff, that's not going to be affected. It'll be BC residents.
Yeah,
It will
but
not be affected.
from your income
it's offsetting
It's
its income
in
tax.
tax.
If you're a BC tax, and it's only the BC portion of your income tax, they can't, the feds won't give you credit.
No, they said no, not to worry about it, it won't affect BC residents.
Well,
So I
the
don't- why would
CDC
they say
knows
that?
something more than I do, because the tax on a $3 million property is more than some little old senior
Oh, I know that.
might be earning in income.
We digress.
BC tax, yeah.
Yeah, I think the budget document was saying that there would be a tax credit for BC residents. who
Against
own
their BC
properties
income tax.
Against their BC income tax, so there should be minimal impact on BC owners, but if you're out of the province, if you're in Calgary or Ontario
Yeah.
or somewhere like that, you will be impacted.
Yeah.
But if you're earning, if you're $30,000 is your taxable income, your BC tax on that, because you're in the bottom tax rate, is 5% of that number, which is $1,500 in
Correct.
my calculation.
That's all that's
And,
deducted from the 20 grand.
and if you had to pay 20 grand because of the value of your property, well, you're kind of out 18.5.
Kind of a losing operation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
yeah. It's
See what
only-
happens.
It's only deducted
lose
as
any
much as
sleep
you
over
make,
it
so
now.
you have to be making $1 million.
It's not a refundable
It's
credit,
worthwhile.
it's up to the extent of
They
it.
have to go again, go in.
Yeah.
Right, let's
Just
not
to
digress on that.
add a little bit about the Islands Trust, I thought people might like to know that the whole Islands Trust has a smaller budget than Bowen Island does. And of course, they're different, but, you know, just to put it in perspective, it was 7 million last year total. And I'll save the logging report for the committee of the whole about what Islands Trust did and that kind of thing.
Right.
And if you'd like, I'll put together a little report on the Islands Trust benefits to Bowen Island and how they come up with the budget, because it's a legislated thing. And then, but that's enough for the Islands Trust. We'll have more to report when Alison and I get back. For Ocean Watch, this is the, comes out of the Howe Sound Forum, and Bowen Island has agreed to spend a little bit of money. That little bit of money was to go towards the first item on the action plan. So in this document, if anybody wants to see it, it's about create a marine guide that brings together data, information, including mapping of the area. So the money that this council and all the other councils, including West Vancouver, who's come in now with the full amount, will be about $20,000 a year for 3 years, and that is just seed money to which we will be attracting grant and foundation dollars. And so where we're at right now, as of Friday, is I volunteered to be on this interim board just to get this little working group into a project that will have its own board and all that kind of thing. So I just wanted to let you know about that. And Howe Sound, the logging that you mentioned at the Howe Sound Forum, May 4th agenda, our next meeting at Furry Creek. We'll have somebody from Flynn Row, Mike Peters from Chilliwack Forest District.
That's the fellow we met.
Is that the fellow you met? And somebody from the Squamish Logging Company, which I think is the logging company. I think it might be the one that Squamish Nation is associated with. And so those will be kind of guest speakers at that.
Yeah, no, I haven't asked them to speak about Bowen Island, and I don't know.
That's
This
why I
is a
want.
real, like I said, I don't want to poke the bear.
That's why I'm giving this information to
Thank you.
council to make sure everybody's aware of what might be coming up.
Yeah.
So.
I just,
And
figuring out,
Need some guns.
we have to meet at some point to figure out a strategy on how to move forward with this, but it is still a bit of a moving target as to what the best plan of attack might be. And every time I'm just about ready to report out to council, something else happens. So, but, yeah. we've got to
I
take it
just heard it
seriously
on
at some point.
Friday, I thought I'd let you know.
Yeah, no, it's good to know. Thank you. Okay. Then we have 10.3, oh, we did that? Okay. And then consent agenda stuff. Allison, you started with 3.2.
That's the minutes, and our CAO agrees with me that there needs to be an amendment, but because of timing, we will have to defer those to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
if I could just speak to it, Tyler, what we need to do with the planning priorities is actually list out what council agreed to, because there was discussion at the meeting, for example, like the transportation master plan, and there are things that would be the number one priority to complete projects already done. So you and I can just work on those minutes and sort of add in a little more detail. With Allison's help.
Okay, and 3.7.
3.7.
Part of that discussion has just happened. I'm a little confused. I'm in the minutes of the Joint Advisory Planning Commission and Mayor's Committee. So down on the second page, there's called, well, the heading was the role of APC members in the community consultation for comprehensive planning for lots 1, 2, and 3. The Mayor's Standing Committee on Community Lands Comprehensive Planning Subcommittee. So is this a subcommittee of the Mayor's Standing Committee, or is it a subcommittee of the APC?
Joint. It's a joint subcommittee.
Well,
But process-wise, I think how I was looking at it was a subcommittee of the Mayor's Standing Committee with APC membership involved.
Okay, so that's because if this is a matter we've been referred to the APC, for the APC to set up a subcommittee to study and have members of the Mayor's Standing Committee on, then it's only council that can refer things to the APC.
Exactly why
So
I
we
said
didn't-
what I did.
We didn't do that.
No, okay. And the other was 1210, which was the,
So I sent you.
The letter.
copies of that.
yeah, so Lorinda was asking for a letter of support. Now, is it gone out as a municipal letter of support or an individual letter of support?
It's, just open it up and take a look. It's really pretty.
Okay, but it's not on letterhead, so I couldn't.
Yes, it is.
Not what's come up online.
Oh, no, it's on letterhead.
Okay, and it's signed by Murray Steele, Mayor of Bowen Island.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was done.
But you said I put forth my endorsement. So you're sending that as an individual,
I'm
not the endorsement of council.
doing what Miranda asked me to do.
Okay. I thought she was asking for a council endorsement.
She was very specific, and she got exactly what she requested.
Okay.
So is it
And
fair
we
to
have
ask
an
Lorinda
endorsement.
doesn't need anything from us individually?
Individually, then?
On
No.
top of what you've already done?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I mean, I looked at this and I thought, okay, I have it down just to ask simply, you've written that she doesn't need like the more, it's not one of these things where the more letters, the better, and it counts by the amount of letters you get.
No, it's quite a fulsome letter.
Yeah.
We're going into quite a bit of detail on their operation and so on. Put a lot of work into that.
Okay, so that, you've done that.
It's gone.
Well, yeah, but I guess her first paragraph said our Bowen Island Council came to mind as I looked for letters of support.
Okay, so.
And so your
There-
first thing said I. And,
Basically, it could have been edited a lot, but I didn't make
yeah,
a decision.
okay,
about it.
and she said, so that's fine. So
Okay.
have you sent her a copy?
Of course.
Yeah, so she was happy?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I know.
If we want to see letters that are sent, they are in that binder under the,
They should be copies put into the reader file, as we call the binder.
that's the binder at the,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'll double check with Tyler and Sophie to make sure that's happening, but that's certainly been past practice what we did.
Okay. I was just remembering, that's where they go. So if we want to look at them, yeah, it's
Yeah.
under the desk.
And everything I do everything I do is copy to Kathy for work with the staff. No, seriously.
His lips to my ears.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, did you receive this email? Did you record it? Did you do this? Did you do that? Yes.
I'm not,
I didn't
Yes,
say-
all
hey, I'm just trying to get it out there that we can all go look if
I
we
didn't mean
want
that
to.
to be directed at you like that,
No.
but I do.
I think that's great,
I'm
you're
pretty
writing
careful-
the letters, we don't have to write them here.
I'm pretty careful about
Yeah.
making sure that I'm not doing rogue type things.
Thank you, Murray,
That's
for writing that
why when
letter.
somebody
All
else
about
beat me up for
transparency.
that,
Yeah.
I think we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I never